Winter of 1776, not unlike this moment. Okay? Some of the most consequential words in U.S. history were actually written that winter by a man who had failed at nearly everything. He had failed at his father's trade. He had failed at being a tax collector 2 times. Do you know how hard it is to fail at being a tax collector 2 times? His wife and baby die. His second wife doesn't like him. The shop that he's running closes. So this is not a man who had been successful at much. And when he is 37 years old, he's like, listen, I don't have anything to lose at this point. I might as well go to America. And he gets on the boat, and the boat ride, okay, I'm from Minnesota, we say boat. Okay, the boat ride was no good. It took like 9 weeks, and everybody gets like the typhus, and they're like throwing dead bodies over the side of the ship. That's not a joke. They actually had to do that. He was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to America. If I do, it'll be kind of a miracle. And when the boat finally pulls into the harbor, he is so delirious with illness that he doesn't even realize they've arrived, and they have to carry him off, and he's sick for many weeks before he is even able to stand up. He has nothing in his possession because, again, he failed even at the tax collecting. He's one thing. He has a letter from a man named Benjamin Franklin. And this letter is to Benjamin Franklin's son, and he's like, hey, this guy, he seems nice. Can you get him a job as like an assistant something? Okay, he's a 37-year-old, and what Benjamin Franklin assesses him to be good enough to do is an assistant something. Okay? This man's name is Thomas Paine. And a few months after he got off of that ship, he sat down and he wrote a pamphlet called Common Sense, a concept that is in short supply, even today. And in this pamphlet called Common Sense, he says something that people were afraid to say because he was living under an authoritarian government. And language was policed. And before this moment, this is before the Declaration of Independence, people had mostly been talking about their relationship with England in the sense of like, how do we fix it? Taxation without representation. Why aren't you nicer? And Thomas Paine says something that people had been afraid to say out loud, which is that America should be its own country. That was like a treasonous thing to say. Right? And people who were signing their name to the Declaration of Independence, they were basically, if we lost the war, they were basically signing their name to a treason document. It was a big deal. And so, listen, I could stop the speech after this slide, because this is something that I think we need more people embodying what this means today. Thomas Paine, when Common Sense was published, it became so popular that millions of copies were reprinted. It is like in all the taverns, all the little farmers at home are reading it or having it read to them. The royalties from Common Sense could have finally made him a wealthy man after 38 plus years, 39 years as a failure. Here was his moment to pocket some cash. And instead, he takes the money that he earns and he invests it in an experiment. He invests it in George Washington's army. And he then joins the army. In December of 1776, things were not going good. Nobody was like, we got this in the bag. Everybody is like, but I don't have any shoes, sir. My musket has been broken for a week and a half. I only have this blanket. I mean, if you think I'm exaggerating, this is not an exaggeration. People are literally like wrapping rags around their feet and walking around in the snow with a blanket around their shoulders. People are dying of all the diseases, getting captured, getting killed. And Thomas Paine is in these ranks. And he has this moment in December of 1776. It's just a few months after the Declaration of Independence. where he sits down and he writes another pamphlet, also aptly titled, An American Crisis. I can think of a few crises that we are still enduring in 2026. And he writes something in The American Crisis that is still reverberating today. He writes, "These are the times that try men's souls." And now listen, I have a large social media following. I write books and do a lot of public speaking. I get over 10,000 DMs a day. That's not an exaggeration. And I don't have any DMs from people who are like, things are looking good out there. I like what I'm seeing. Everybody, the people you work with, the people in your families, your employees, they are all feeling some version of this. These are the times that try men's souls. 250 years later, this is still the American sentiment. And so what does this moment ask of us 250 years later, if these are still the times that try men's souls? I have three things I'd like you to think about. The first one is that we as leaders have to know the difference between a hard time and a hopeless time. We have come to conflate hard with hopeless. And what the result of that is are people who are disengaged, people who have given up, people who feel they have no responsibility to the future. They think it is hopeless, and so they do not have to do anything. What happens when your friend is going through a hard time? You text them, "How are you doing? Can I bring you some food? Can I watch your kids?" You step it up when your friend is going through a hard time. When you know that this is a hard time, you step up your responsibility. If you think this is a hopeless time, you have absolved yourself of responsibility. So as leaders, we need to be willing to model the difference between a hard time and a hopeless time. The next thing I think we can take away from this moment is that we should not be reaching for an easy optimism. What John Lewis was referring to with thinking about the future with optimism was not the sense that listen, Q2 is looking great. Donations up. I think we're going to win the game. Those are forecasts for a positive outcome. John Lewis did not have a forecast for a positive outcome. That optimism collapses as soon as the winds begin to change. I think a better way to think about this is, instead of an easy optimism, reaching for a more durable hope. A durable hope does not ask you to pretend that what is broken is not broken. And that is a sentiment that I am hearing from so many people today, that we are being asked to pretend that things are fine. We are being asked to ignore very, very real problems and just sweep it under the rug, erase it from the website, change the language around it. Durable hope does not ask us to pretend that broken things aren't broken. Instead, a more durable hope looks at what is broken and says, I will not let this be the end of the story. This is not how this is going to end. The people who came before us, the civil rights leaders, the suffrage workers, the patriots of 1776, did not have a forecast they could trust. There was no positive quarterly earnings statement. They did not have the luxury of a belief that everything was going to turn out great. When they start the Montgomery bus boycott, they're not should only be 7 or 8 more days. Got that locked up. That was not the vibe. Instead, they believed that the future was theirs to help shape. And I think we have lost sight of this. We have given into a hopeless time instead of recognizing it for what it is, a hard time. And the third thing I'd like us to think about is that we don't get to choose the world we inherit. Because listen, this is not the one I would pick. I can see about 500 things that I'm like, I wouldn't choose a lot of what's happening. So I don't get to choose the world I'm inheriting, but I do get to decide what the world is going to inherit from me. And everyone in this room has that power. We get to decide what the world is going to inherit from us. And I want the people in this room, there are people in this room with like assets, right? You have to have a certain level of assets to even get on a plane to come here. We need to understand that power does not get to be neutral in a moment like this. Power does not get to be neutral in a moment like this. The question is not whether you're going to spend your power, it's what you're going to spend it on. It's if you're going to spend it on making the people downstream of you feel more disposable or less. Whether you will spend your power on bringing communities together or wrenching them apart. You don't get to be neutral at a time that is trying men's souls. Thomas Paine also wrote this in Common Sense, and I think this is something that we can take with us and tuck into our pocket. He said, we have it in our power to begin the world over again. And he wrote that 250 years ago, and we still have that power today. We have it in our power to begin the world over again. If a 37-year-old man who had failed at being a tax collector 2 times believed in his ability to impact the future, who are we to say otherwise? So when times are trying, which by the way they are, these are the 3 things that I'd love for us to sort of tuck into our pockets. A hard time is not a hopeless time. That we need to stop reaching for easy optimism and reach instead for a more durable hope that says, I will not let this be the end of the story. And we must choose what the world will inherit from us. And it might as well be something good. It might as well be something good. We have it in our power to begin the world over again. And we always have. Thank you.